Okay, so this one is about a romantic getaway gone wrong.
Hmm.
Yeah, a relationship dilemma surrounding a trip. And I think it'll make us all think about boundaries and, communication and
Yeah.
relationships.
It's crazy how, like, something that seems pretty simple on the surface can bring up so much
Yeah,
about the dynamics between two people.
totally. And this is exactly what we're going to deep dive into today.
Okay.
So we've got this couple.
Okay.
We'll call them Jay-Z and Adam, and they've been together for like 3 years.
Hmm.
Both have these demanding jobs.
Yeah.
And Jay-Z is feeling that like classic strain,
Right.
like she's not getting enough quality time with her partner.
Yeah.
And so to try to address this, she plans this week-long boat trip.
Nice.
Yeah, like all sunsets and sailing, just the two of
I
them.
like it already.
Yeah, it sounds perfect, right?
Yeah.
But
Go ahead.
I think it's really interesting that it was her idea to plan this trip
Right.
because it seems like she's really taking the initiative to try to address this need in their relationship.
For sure. For sure.
But here's where things go a little sideways.
Oh, no. What happened?
So Adam decides to invite his friends along for the first 2 days
Oh.
without even talking to Jay-Z about it first.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
That's not great communication.
Yeah,
Out of the gate.
right.
And, this is like textbook emotional invalidation, where one person's feelings are
Yeah,
totally minimized or dismissed.
yeah.
And, like, to be blindsided like that, it can really make you start to question, like, where you stand in the relationship.
For sure. For sure. And, Jay-Z was very clear from the beginning that this was supposed to be just the two of them.
Right.
Like, she even mentions in the video that she told him specifically.
Oh, wow.
It's not like she just sprung this on him last minute or anything.
Yeah, it wasn't a surprise party.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think we have to ask, was he intentionally trying to be dismissive of her feelings?
Right.
Or is there a pattern of miscommunication here? Like a difference in how they each view what quality time means.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they're speaking two totally different languages when it comes to this.
Yeah, it's like they're not on the same page at all about this.
Exactly. And so his response to her being upset about this is basically like, oh, chill out. It's no big deal. It's only 2 days. But is it really only 2 days?
Exactly. And Jay-Z even mentions that his friends have a history of, like,
Yeah.
overstaying their welcome a little bit.
Yes. I think that is a really crucial detail.
Oh, sure.
Because it suggests that there could be a power dynamic at play here.
Yeah.
Where Adam is subconsciously prioritizing his friend's wants
Right.
over her needs.
Yeah, are we seeing, like, this guys' night culture kind of
Yeah.
creeping into their dynamic here?
Yes, and I think it makes you wonder how that can impact relationships in general.
Absolutely.
Especially when she describes his friends as kind of a wild bunch.
Yeah.
And maybe not super respectful of personal space.
Right. Like, are those 2 days going to magically turn into the whole week?
Yes, like, is everyone just going to be tagging along for the whole thing?
And then what,
Yeah.
And that speaks to, I think, like, a really common fear that people have.
Uh-huh.
That fear of, like, losing yourself in a relationship.
Totally,
Like,
yeah.
do I have to sacrifice
Yeah.
all of my preferences and needs to fit into my partner's
Yeah,
social world?
for sure. And so when Jay-Z kind of reaches her breaking point and she's like, fine, go with your friends. I'm not going.
Yeah.
Things really escalate.
What happens?
So his reaction is really telling because instead of trying to understand where she's coming from,
Right.
he accuses her of being immature and like ruining the trip. It's that classic defensive move
Well, yeah.
that just pushes the conflict even further.
Yeah, for sure.
And so he leaves for the trip with his friends.
But
But here's the real kicker.
what?
The friends start texting Jay-Z,
Oh, no.
calling her controlling, saying that she should have just let him have this one thing.
Oh, my God.
What do you think about that?
I mean, the friends getting involved like this is just,
Yeah.
it's a whole other layer of complexity.
Right.
It brings up so many questions like, are they enabling his behavior?
Right.
Are they trying to protect him?
Yeah.
Or are they contributing to this dynamic where Jay-Z just feels like she's totally ganged up on?
It really makes you think about the role friends play in a relationship,
For sure.
right? Like, are they supposed to be a support system or can they sometimes make things even more difficult?
Absolutely.
I think that's something we're going to have to unpack in part 2 of this deep dive.
I can't wait.
Okay, so we left off with Jay-Z feeling pretty alone in all of this, and now the friends are like adding their 2 cents.
Yeah, not helpful.
Yeah, not helpful at all. It's really making me think about how friends can sometimes
Oh, totally.
complicate relationships.
It's like they're not just like bystanders. You know, they're kind of like active participants in this
Exactly.
dynamic that's already not great.
And in this case, they're definitely reinforcing this idea that her feelings don't matter.
Like minimizing her experience even further.
Totally. And, this trip was supposed to be different.
Right.
It's like she already feels like she's constantly compromising for him and his friends.
Yeah, and this was supposed to be her time with him?
Exactly. And it makes me think of this concept I read about
Okay.
called bidding for connection.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about that.
So it's from this researcher, Dr. John Gottman.
Okay.
And it's basically this idea that in any relationship,
Yeah.
partners are always kind of like
Yeah.
making these bids for each other's attention and affection and support.
Right.
And it's how we respond to those bids that really determines the health of the relationship.
Like, are you going to turn towards your partner?
Right,
Or are
yeah.
you going to turn away from your partner?
Exactly. And so, like, planning this getaway, that was her big bid for connection with Adam.
Okay. I see that.
But instead of getting a positive response, she gets resistance and invalidation.
Right. It's almost like he's saying, I don't care.
Yeah, it makes you feel like your needs are not important.
Exactly. And then on top of that, you've got the friends
Right.
piling on.
And basically saying she's wrong for having needs at all.
Like, how dare you want to spend time with your boyfriend?
Yeah. This is how it is. Deal with it.
Yeah. Fall in line.
Which kind of brings us back to this whole guys' night culture thing.
Right.
Like, is it possible that Adam is also feeling some pressure to conform to his friends' expectations?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely that element of like
Yeah.
male bonding and,
Camaraderie.
exactly. Like this idea that men express their closeness through activities and like doing things together rather than like,
Right.
having these deep emotional conversations.
Exactly. So maybe for him, inviting the friends was his way of trying to include Jay-Z
Oh, interesting.
in that part of his life, even if it's like
Yeah.
totally misguided.
Like a weird way of showing it.
Exactly. So he might not even be consciously aware of how much he's hurting her.
He could be totally clueless,
Yeah.
which, it doesn't make it any less painful for her.
Right. Her feelings are still valid.
For sure.
And I think this whole situation highlights how important it is
Yeah.
to be aware of different communication styles.
Right, because if he was more in tune with his own emotions
Exactly.
and with hers, things probably wouldn't have gone off the rails like this.
And learning to articulate your needs and expectations clearly
Yes.
is so important for any healthy relationship.
Absolutely. Communication is key.
So how do we even begin to navigate these differences?
Right.
Especially when you throw in social expectations and all these like unspoken rules.
It's like a minefield out there.
Is it even possible to find a balance without someone feeling like they're always giving something up?
I think that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to get into in part 3, because finding that balance is a journey,
For sure.
and it takes a lot of self-awareness and being able to move beyond like
Right.
this I'm right, you're wrong kind of thinking.
Okay, so Jay-Z and Adam, their romantic getaway has turned into like this communication nightmare.
Yeah, it's definitely not the relaxing boat trip they had in mind.
Not at all, and now they're at this crossroads, right? Like,
Right.
what happens next?
I think it really comes down to, are they willing to put in the work
Yeah,
to actually fix this communication breakdown? Because like we've been talking about,
right,
this isn't just about the trip itself,
right.
This is about these like fundamental differences in how they express their needs and in
Yeah.
how they show love to each other.
And I think it's important to remember that Adam's friends really added fuel to the fire here.
Oh, for sure.
Like making Jay-Z feel like she's the one in the wrong.
Totally.
So how can she even approach this situation when she's getting bombarded with all these messages
Yeah.
that are just invalidating her feelings left and right?
I think this is where boundaries become super important.
Okay.
Not just between her and Adam,
Mm-hmm.
but also with the friends.
Okay.
Like she needs to make it clear that her relationship with Adam is not up for debate
Right.
by the group,
Yeah.
But
But how do you do that without causing even more drama?
right.
Especially when these friends see themselves as like fiercely loyal to Adam.
It's not about like attacking them or blaming them.
Okay.
It's about asserting her needs with calm and clear statements.
Okay.
Like maybe something like, hey, I understand that you care about Adam, but the way you're talking to me is not helpful, and it's actually really disrespectful.
So it's not about shutting down communication altogether.
Right.
It's about setting limits.
Yeah, setting boundaries on what's acceptable behavior.
And I think sometimes actions speak louder than words, right?
Right.
Like if they continue to overstep those boundaries, she might need to distance herself,
Right.
at least for a little while, and really prioritize her own emotional well-being.
Absolutely.
Right.
Sometimes taking space is the healthiest thing you can do, even if it feels hard.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder, what if Adam doesn't see anything wrong with his friend's behavior?
Right.
What if he continues to prioritize their approval over how she feels?
I mean, I think that's a major red flag.
Yeah.
Because it could signal that there's some deeper issues at play.
Right.
Like maybe he struggles with setting boundaries himself, or
Right.
maybe he's so used to the dynamic with his friends that he's just blind to how it's impacting her.
So how does she even approach that conversation with him?
Yeah.
It feels like walking into a minefield with all the hurt and resentment that's already built up.
It's all about I statements.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
instead of blaming him, she can focus on expressing her own experience.
Right.
Like, for example, when you invite your friends on our trip without discussing it with me, I feel hurt and disregarded.
Okay, so it shifts the focus from blame to understanding.
Exactly.
But what if he just gets defensive again, like he did before?
Then she needs to recognize her own power in that moment.
Okay.
She can say something like, look, I'm not willing to continue this conversation if you're not going to listen respectfully.
So sometimes walking away is the best way.
Sometimes, yeah, it's the strongest way to enforce those boundaries.
And show that you're serious about your needs.
Exactly.
I'm really glad we deep dived into this one
Yeah.
because it's making me think about my own relationships and how I handle these kinds of situations.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's a good reminder that healthy relationships take work,
Absolutely.
Like there's going to be bumps in the road,
Always.
but it's how you navigate them that really matters.
It's all about the repair attempts.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jay-Z and Adam's story really highlights how something that seems simple can actually expose some much deeper issues.
For sure.
And while there's no easy fix,
Right.
it gives us all a chance to step back and think about our own communication styles,
Yeah.
our boundaries, and what we really want out of our relationships.
And sometimes, facing those uncomfortable truths is the first step to creating something way better.
Exactly. Sometimes you have to get real with yourself and with your partner to build something stronger.
Totally.